Welcome back, everybody. This week, we're going to have a conversation with Tom. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Let's start off with the famous one-word open that I ask everybody when we're kicking it off. So what's the one word right now that you could use to describe how you're feeling in this moment, Tom?
I'm hopeful.
Very cool.
Hopeful things are changing. Hopeful things are getting better.
Yeah, me too. Very cool. So take the next few minutes. Tell us who you are, what your company does, who you help, how you help them, and essentially what impact are you making in the marketplace so our audience could be right there with you. Go right ahead.
Sure. So my name's Tom Rossi. My company is Higher Pixels. We primarily spend our time working on a product called Buzzsprout, which helps podcasters. And this is something that we've worked on for years and has just gotten to the place now where we can devote most of our energies strictly developing features for that product. And so it helps podcasters really get over all the obstacles that might get in their way of being able to launch and grow their podcast. And that's what we do.
That's really cool. When did you have the aha moment for this product when you launched it? What was that aha moment like? Where were you, if you remember exactly?
Well, we had another product that people kept asking to be able to upload audio up on the internet so that people could download it, which was a podcast, but even our customers didn't know that's what it was. And we heard it enough that we're like, okay, let's build it. I don't know if there's actually a market for this, but let's build it. It'll be fun. We built it, we launched it. It was a lot of fun, but it would be years before podcasting really started to just explode. And when that happened, we were just in a great place to be able to capitalize on it because we'd already built a product that was designed to make things really accessible for anybody to be able to launch a podcast.
That's awesome. A lot of people want to jump into podcasting because, I get approached, people who I interview, like, VCs, private equity firms, thought leaders, business owners, and just people in the marketplace that are, wanting to drive impact. So a lot of people, ask me for my advice for podcasting, and then I see them start a podcast, but it's really hard to stick to it. I mean, I'm on episode 160 plus. And you got to have discipline because there are days that, you're doing this, you're like, what am I doing this for? Or if the technology piece is not that great, you're just kind of stuck. It can easily fall off that discipline, right? So that's cool that you have this product, and I can't wait to dive in more so people who are listening could see, how you can help them and all that good stuff. So let's talk about the pandemic. So can you share with us how the pandemic impacted you and how you pivoted in your business?
Yeah, so the pandemic, there was a lot of uncertainty going into it, right? For all of us, we're like, how is the world going to change? We were already a remote company in that our office was always optional. So people use the office if they want, but if they could be more productive in a coffee shop or at home or wherever, they could work there as well. So there wasn't a big shift there, but there was a lot of uncertainty. And so what was going to happen? Are people going to, stop podcasting? Are they going to stop signing up for services like that? What's going to happen in the world? And so I think the uncertainty was the big thing. It ended up being a real big win for us, which, we felt guilty because so many people got into podcasting because they're locked into their rooms with nothing to do. And it made it, hey, we've always talked about starting a podcast. Let's start a podcast. And so we had just explosive growth during the pandemic. I think the long-term effect of the pandemic, I think for me, has been more on cultural. How do we build a culture in our company when less and less people are actually coming to the office, right? As they got more productive at home, less people come in the office. And so things where we used to say, hey, let's come in the office for a meeting, we're doing that a lot less often. And so the challenge is, how do you continue to build a healthy culture where people feel connected, that they can understand the impact of the work that they're doing every day, how it connects to everyone else's work? And that's a fun leadership challenge that I'm enjoying, but it's definitely something that was born out of everyone moving to remote, and us really embracing that as being, the way to work.
That's awesome. I know what you just mentioned and probably hit, it resonated with a lot of people listening because we've all experienced it. It's been really tough, and a lot of people couldn't pivot out. But nevertheless, business will never be conducted the same going forward as it was before because everyone's pivoted, to your point. So with that said, I know you briefly touched on a win. Can you tell us one of the most successful wins that you've had? Maybe it was the one that you just touched on. You want to go in deeper, or if there's some particular one that's real close to your heart, so to speak, that was a big success that you put on the board in your business? Kind of share us, walk us through, like take like only like 2 minutes, walk us through that success journey and also your takeaway from it. That'd be great, Tom.
Sure. So, my primary responsibility in the company originally was all tech, was writing all the software. So I have partners, and I have a creative partner who's, he's done the product features and design and stuff like that. And I'm more on the technical side. And then we have another partner that's on the financial side. And so on the software, we've always, for years, we spent all of our time debating features and functionality and, what do we want to build and how do we want to build it and how should it work and how do we engage our customers and things like that, not on marketing. And probably the thing that had the biggest impact, the biggest win that we had, was rolling the dice. We used to talk about magic beans, the magic beans of marketing, of spending money on, affiliate advertising and content marketing and things like that. And somebody on our team, Alvin Brook, who leads our marketing now, he really wanted to run with it. He really wanted to give it a shot. And we were like, well, build the features and, they will come, like Field of Dreams, like, oh, if we just build it, then they're going to come, they're going to find us. And we rolled the dice with Alvin, and he has really led us to a place of actually marketing and selling. And we've realized that it's just as vital as building a feature is investing in how you approach your blog or your YouTube channel or these other things that we wouldn't have originally thought were as important. And that's really paid off in the long run for Buzzsprout.
That's really great. Thanks for sharing that with us. So what about the opposite side of that? So we all talk about success as part of business as you scale, but another part of the business is failing, right? There's things that you fail at, but it's how you recover and move on, with it, so to speak, upwards and onwards. So walk us through a recent failure that you would consider a failure that you ran into, or a roadblock that you ran into, and how did you go through that whole journey, and how did you pull out of it? Tell us.
Yeah, let me think about that. I think for us, we try to minimize our bets, right? We talk about we go to the betting table to make bets every 6 weeks of what features we're going to be working on building and stuff like that. So you try to minimize the cost of that failure. And so what I would probably call failures would be, bets that didn't pay off. For us, a bet that didn't pay off would be a feature that we played with. We spent maybe 6 weeks in development, got to the end of it and kind of tabled it. That happens from time to time, but most of the time we whittle things back so that we can learn as we go and pivot. One example, I think we were just talking about this, is transcripts and podcasting is a really great feature. People love transcripts, but it's incredibly difficult to do. And we're a podcasting company, not a AI, speech recognition company. But we wanted to kind of explore what we could build in terms of our own transcripting service. And so we invested up a couple work cycles in that. So was it a waste of time? Well, nothing really came out of it other than we learned a ton about how transcripts work, but there wasn't necessarily a feature that came out of it. Now we didn't, like I said, we learned a lot. And so there may be, features that now that we know that, we might be able to pivot in the future. But I think those are the kind of examples of when we typically run into failures. It's a work cycle that we may have invested in something that didn't result in something getting rolled out to the customer. And that's a good recent example.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that with us. Oh my God, that's such a good one, because everyone listening, including myself, there's things that you kind of go down this journey and you're like, this could be a good thing. And then it ends up maybe not being a good thing at the time, but you learn so much, right? Sometimes you learn what not to do more than what you did, but also it was a great journey, like you said, for you, and you guys learned a lot. So
I think the important thing though with that is to put boundaries around it. So I think what I see a lot of times with entrepreneurs is that they don't put boundaries around it. So what will happen is they will go too far with a bad idea, with the rationalization of, well, look what I learned. Well, you can always say that. You can always, find something to learn from it. What you want to do is minimize the amount of pain that you're causing yourself, so that you put boundaries around it. So for us, for example, it's that 6 week boundary. At the end of that 6 weeks, we have to make a hard decision. Are we going to continue to invest in this or are we not? If we had just said, hey, let's just, throw resources at it, well, 6 weeks could become 12 weeks, could become a year. So forcing yourself, I think, to put boundaries around those bets that you're making so that you can ask, well, is the only thing I'm getting out of this is learning? Or is there something else that I'm learning or something else that's coming out of this that is actually, moving the company forward?
Very cool. So if you don't mind taking a second to tell the audience, like, who's your typical sweet spot of a client, so that way if they're listening, they go, okay, yeah, that's me or not. And then we just identify with us or to us, who your typical sweet spot of a client is. And also, what is your best advice you could give them in the context of the realm of the work you do?
Sure. I would say, we are all about helping podcasters remove the obstacles to get their podcast launched. And so our sweet spot is that podcaster that's like, I don't know if I can do it. I think it might be too hard. I've heard I've got to buy a microphone. I've got to do this. I've got to, learn how to use this software. For that person, Buzzsprout, that's who we're thinking about every day. How can we help that person overcome any of those obstacles to be able to launch their podcast and then become what we call a consistent content creator? Somebody that's consistent, like you said, overcoming that discipline required to be consistent and being able to create quality content for their listeners. Because a lot of people get hung up. They get hung up on, little details that we can help them overcome. And that's what we're about.
That's really great. So this is the part of the podcast. If you don't mind sharing your social handles, your website address, that way, if someone who's listening and they want to launch a podcast, or if they have a podcast, they just want to be better at it, they want to check you out, give us your website address and social handles.
Sure. Buzzsprout.com. And you can hit us up on Twitter at Buzzsprout. We also have a Facebook group that's for podcasters. Just search for Buzzsprout. And happy to help. I'm also Tom Rossi 7. If you ever have questions about how we run our business, things like that, happy to talk.
Awesome, Tom. Here we are at the end. What's the word you want to sign off with, and tell us why you're choosing to sign off with this word? We start with hopeful, and here we are at the end. Let's see what you're going to close up.
I'm ending with hopeful. I think it's recognizing that things are a lot better than they were. Even as rough as it looks, there is always hope. And so I think that's what I hang on to, and that's what I want to share with everybody else.
Tom, thank you very much for the energy. That was awesome, and I appreciate the conversation.
No problem. Thank you.